Welcome everyone to the Sober Sex Sofa. I am a sex addict. I'm also a love addict, an alcoholic, a compulsive gambler, and a debtor. My name is Shanti Owen and I have been working as a sober coach in the addiction recovery field since 2016. I'm super excited to host this channel as it will bring this information to a wider audience because you don't have to have an addiction to sit with me on the Sober Sex Sofa. All curious people are encouraged and welcome. Okay, the topic of this video is how I discovered I had a sex addiction. I have other addictions, but my sex addiction is what opened the door for me taking a look at other addictions, and it literally brought me to my knees. I'll give you a tiny microcosm of a backstory. In October of 2011, I kicked my husband out for his third infidelity, at least the third one that I thought he had. And I soon realized he had a sex addiction, and I was so angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. We had been together for 5 years. Angry that he did what he did. And I started going to some 12-step programs for partners of people who have sex addiction. But it didn't seem to be helping too much with my anger. And I decided to start meditating again, which I had stopped doing during my decade of, which I learned later is my acting out sexually. So I started meditating again, and one day during meditations in December of 2011, I started talking to God very poignantly, and I did something which I label raging. It's my made-up word, which I call crying and raging at the same time. So I was crying and I was definitely raging. Not necessarily out loud, but inside. And I was mad at God for bringing this sex addict into my life. So I started saying, God, why did you bring this sex addict into my life? Why? And then I took a pause and I heard this voice say to me, because you are that. And I replied, because I am that? Because I am a sex addict? And then I saw my sexual life flash before me from childhood as a young girl, 5 years old, playing doctor to the present. And I opened my eyes in terror and shock and incredible shame, and I ran to the bathroom to throw up. What happened next was, I don't know, you want to call it a miracle, but what happened next was that I came out of denial completely. I realized, yeah, I'm a sex addict, so of course I attracted a sex addict to me. Now, that's not necessarily the case for everybody, but that was mine. And I soon started looking for 12-step programs for people who have sex addictions, and I found them. And I started attending regularly. I also took on a therapist. I had already had a therapist, but I looked for a therapist who specialized in sex addiction. And that is how I began my journey. I also started writing my memoirs, and I wrote on a daily basis, and that really was incredibly helpful. Now, I'm very aware that not everybody who discovers an addiction, a sex addiction, an alcohol addiction, or a drug addiction has such a dramatic reveal. Sometimes it's quite subtle, and either way, it doesn't matter how you wake up. What's really important is that we do wake up. And people who are watching, they might not have any type of addiction issues, but maybe you know somebody who does, and it could really help you to understand their painful journey, because coming out of denial is nothing short of terrifying, excruciatingly painful, and extremely shameful, especially when you have a sex addiction. So I just want to encourage everybody to please come back to the Sober Sofa. where it's safe to talk. Thank you so much. And like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would love you all to keep coming back. I want to see you all. Write your comments and your questions, especially those really hard to ask questions. They help everybody. They really, really do.